with the limited time that we have, we would move forward and request the lecturer of Professor Ashutosh Sharma, who's Secretary of Department of Science and Technology in India. He is not going to be available in person, so his presentation is going to be given and recording. So I'll request the organizers to play his lecture, please.
My greetings to all the participants in this session on ecology, agriculture, and climate change mitigation. There have been several key messages from IPCC Working Group 1 report. Let us review them very quickly in the context of India. Certainly, India is faced with the challenges of sustaining rapid economic progress while dealing with the global threat of climate change. Projected climate change, as brought out by the Working Group 1 sixth IPCC report released recently, it provided very grim warnings about the deepening climate emergency, with some of the changes already set in motion, which are thought to be irreversible for many decades and centuries to come. Averaged over the next 20 years, global temperature is expected to reach or exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming, limiting, limiting global warming to close to 1.5 degrees Celsius or even 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels will be beyond reach in the next 2 decades without immediate, rapid, and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. The 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold is a critical global target because beyond this level, so-called tipping points become more likely. Tipping points refer to an irreversible change in the climate system, locking in further global heating. At 2 degrees Celsius of global warming, heat extremes often reach critical tolerance thresholds for agriculture and for health and for all manners of growth. The IPCC report says climate change is bringing different changes in different regions, and all will increase with further global heating. The changes include more intense rainfall and associated flooding, more intense drought in many regions, coastal areas to see continued sea level rise, throughout the 21st century, the amplification of permafrost thawing, ocean acidification, among many others that we are well aware of. Now, let's look at India's progress on some of the fronts in climate change research. Whole lot of it has been supported by the Department of Science and Technology. Department of Science and Technology has been implementing two national missions on climate change as part of National Action Plan on Climate Change. These are National Mission for Sustaining the Himalayan Ecosystem. Himalayan ecosystem, of course, is very unique. It has global implications. It is really the third pole, if you would, in determining a whole lot of things that happen around climate, and not just in India, but globally. Second mission is National Mission on Strategic Knowledge for Climate Change. These missions have done considerably well. DST started from scratch in 2010, but now have 200 projects supported, 15 centers of excellence, 30 major R&D programs, 14 network programs, which include nearly 100 projects, 6 task forces, 25 state climate change centers, etc. During last 6 years, as many as 2,000 research papers in high impact factor journals uh, relevant to climate change have been published. More than 100 new technologies have been developed, and nearly 50,000 people have been trained, and 1.5 lakh 150,000 people given exposure as part of these missions. Because, of course, the climate change is not only about technology, is equally about policies, and most importantly, about that information reaching the people, the stakeholders who would drive this agenda forward. More than 1,500 scientists and students are working in these mission projects. So basically, there is a process of training at every level, from the grassroots to cutting edge scientists and across the entire spectrum. Now, some of the key achievements in climate change mitigation coming out from the activities is that, of course, India is part of nationally determined contributions in UNFCCC in 2015, committed to reduce the emissions intensity of its GDP by 20 to 25% by 2020 and 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 levels. We achieved reduction in emission intensity of our GDP by 21% between 2005 and 2014. Similarly, we targeted to achieve about 40% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel based energy sources by 2030. We already have renewable energy share that account for nearly 38% of the total installed power capacity. India is the fourth largest wind power producer in the world. Our wind power capacity is 38.8 gigawatts. The government targeted to install 20 gigawatts of solar power by 2022, of which we achieved much ahead of time by 2018 itself. India has set a new target of 175 gigawatts of solar power by 2022 and 450 gigawatts by 2030. Uh, as far as the climate change impact on India is concerned, what are the challenges and way forward? The projected changes in climate may have serious implications for India in terms of increase in extreme events like heat waves, cyclones, heavy rainfall, sea level rise, floods and droughts. The country is likely to face a conflict of leading a proactive climate action which conform to less than 2 degrees Celsius rise by the end of century, yet getting impacted severely due to large population density and poverty, and some of its region and population having weak capacity to adapt to changing climate. Climate change would impose some major challenges on food, water, energy, and health security. The biggest challenge for India would be how to enhance its adaptive capacity by improving its Human Development Index, especially addressing poverty. For this, huge resources would be needed. International funding to meet the challenges of climate change has been much less than India's needs. India's needs also in terms of appropriate technology, because the challenges of climate change that we face are not only Indian challenges, they are indeed global challenges, and the best practices and technology available globally ought to bear on this very strongly. India has contributed much less emissions per capita and indeed emissions integrated over time historically. However, despite that, India, of course, is fully committed to significantly contribute to the global efforts to mitigate the global warming and its effects through technology, through policies, through regulations, and appropriate actions on the ground. Together with the committed global cooperation in technology, we can together do it. And indeed, this is the way we look at the future very positively and proactively. The mantra indeed is to do it together and to do it quickly, do it with the speed and the scale which is required, which is possible only through very committed global cooperation. Thank you very much.